Hello everyone, welcome back to Scarecrow Joe's studio and the paper mache Krampus Bust tutorial. In the last segment, we finished up the sculpt. And in this segment, it's the final part of this tutorial. We're going to paint, seal, and then apply our hair and any kind of fur or fabric that you have in mind. So let's get started. So before we really start getting into the painting, I do want to point out something that I did off camera that you didn't get to see in the previous segment of this tutorial. Using the cotton dipped in the paper mache paste, same technique that I have been using in previous segments of the tutorial, I put in some veining using that same technique. So some very subtle veining. I wasn't sure if I was going to cover the entire head with hair or fur or anything. So I thought that just in case I did have some areas that were showing on the side, it would be more interesting to look at if I had those details in there. So I did that a little bit on both sides. I didn't get too crazy with it, but as you can see, here's some more of that detail in there. So in case any of that shows, it won't look so plain. But other than that, I based out the sculpture with the exception of the tongue that I already pre-painted and the teeth. I based it all out in off-white acrylic paint. So the whole thing is based out in that color. And I let that dry, and we're ready, or I'm ready, to go ahead and start applying some paint. I have a lot of different colors of acrylic paint here in front of me because as usual I don't have like a solid color scheme. I do have some ideas, but I'm going to play around with some color and just kind of go from there. But my color choices are going to be on the cooler side. So I have flesh tone color, bluish gray, cool gray. I have some purples and some blues in here. And that's pretty much what I'm going to paint this with. I do have some other browns, a raw sienna. And I also have a tapestry wine color. So these are basically going to be my color palette, of course, with some white and then some black. We'll do some washes as well. So my idea is to start out with a very neutral kind of a tone, so kind of a mid-range. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what this bluish gray paint looks like. And I have some little plastic cups here. So we'll see what that looks like. Might need to lighten it up a little bit, maybe add some gray or some other color. And after I get my paint mixed up, I'll go ahead and start painting. So the two colors that I used are a bluish gray and a cool gray. So just a little of that. I'll give you a look at it. That's the reason that I'm using a clear cup so that you could see that. And this paint is not my normal Apple Barrel brand cheap acrylic paint. This is a little more high-end, and so it's a thicker paint. So because it's thicker and I want to thin it out a little bit, I have some acrylic. This is a matte fluid medium. You can add this to thicker acrylic paint and it'll thin it down. So I'm just going to put a little bit in there. And let's mix it up and see what we get. I think I'm going to need to add a little white paint just to lighten it a little bit. And I'm not making a whole lot of this paint, just a little bit of it right now, as you can see, because I just want to kind of try this out. This will be pretty much what will be my medium tone or medium hue to this bust. So let's see what it looks like. I'm going to turn him around. And I'm pretty much going to paint the entire bust. I'm not going to touch the horns. I will not be painting this color onto the horns. So from this section where the horns meet the head, I will not be painting them this color. Just the body or the bust part of it. And I'm going to start on the back because I want to see what it looks like when it dries, and then go from there. But I think this is going to give me a cool winter bluish gray coloration. Now on this bust, most of this is going to be covered in fur or some kind of material. So that's why I'm really just kind of trying out this color onto basically parts that aren't going to be showing very much, just so I can kind of get a feel for it and see what that color is going to look like after it dries. And if I like it, I'll go ahead and paint out the whole thing. If I don't like it, then I could repaint it. All right, I based out the entire bust, well, with the exception of the eyes and the mouth areas here and the horns, with that color combination. This is still drying a little bit. It's mostly dry, and don't worry, it's not going to stay this bluish color. This is just basically the under hue. My idea is that I want this Krampus to look like he's been out in snow a lot. I mean, he is withstanding a lot of winter, so I want him to look that way. But while I'm waiting for this to dry a little bit more, I have this piece of scrap chain that I had laying around that I'm going to incorporate into some of the costuming that I'll put on him. And it's already a pretty cool color. It has like a black, kind of a bronze look to it, but I want it to stand out a little bit more. So I have this bronze. This is a metallic bronze paint, same company. And I'm going to try that out. I'm going to dry brush a little bit of this bronze paint onto this chain. I've got some of it on my little piece of newspaper here. Knocking off a lot of it, and I'm just going to go in just to brighten it up a bit so that on my costuming that I put on him, fabric, fur, whatever, this is going to stand out a little bit more. And so far, I'm really liking this brand of paint. I will link in the description of this video, hopefully I remember to do so. But the paint here that I am using today, in case you are interested in getting some of this for yourself. All right, so in this cup here, I have some white acrylic paint, and I put a little bit of the cool gray acrylic paint in there so that I can go over this, kind of tone it down a little bit so it's not so stark blue, that bluish color. I just want to tone that down. I still want some of that bluish tone to come through underneath, but this is going to tone down that bluish coloration. So it's not so bright blue. Other color over the bluish color that I had on there. It toned it down, so that looks great. So now what I want to do, I'm going to move on to the horns for now while the rest of this is kind of drying. And this is a very, very watered down raw umber paint mixed with a little bit of black and water. So it's a very, very watered down. And I'm going to paint the entire horns this color. This is going to be basically the base coat of my horns. So I'm not, even though this is a wash, I'm not going to wipe it off. I'm going to leave it on there to dry. And then I can come back in with some other colors of browns, grays, maybe a little bit of yellow ochre, whatever, however that's pronounced. Detail them out with the paint that way. But the entire horns, even this part of them, the base, I'm just painting them with that wash of black and raw umber paint. So I just want you to have a look at the horns now. And I really like the way it looks. There's some areas where it's lighter than others and kind of faded out. You could see a little bit of the white coming through. And I really like that effect because it makes something that's organic actually look organic. I did get some flecks, you know, as I was painting. There's some little flecks of the paint that came down onto the top of the head, maybe a little bit on the ears. I'm not concerned about it. I think it's going to look good with the rest of the paint, but I'm going to continue to let those dry. I don't know if I showed you guys in the last segment what I did off camera as far as the horns, because they look pretty plain. So I just took, again, with my cotton dipped in paste, and I basically wrapped the horns, except for the very tips, and then of course the base of the horns with the cotton, and it gave it that really nice texture to it. So I really like that. I'm gonna move on and start doing some more detailed paint, but I do want to show you something else on the back of him here. And as you can see, I have these splotches of paint. I don't like the way that looks. I just wanted to see what that wash of the black burnt umber paint would look like if I painted on over the bluish grayish paint and then wiped it off. And this is the effect. I don't like it. But the reason I did it on the back is because I wasn't sure what it was going to look like. And I know that no one's going to see the back of it because it's going to all be covered in a fur material. So we're going to move on now to start detailing out the face here with some more paint. All right, I have a variety of smaller paint brushes, and I'm going to go back in and some of the recessed areas of my sculpt and darken those in again with that bluish gray paint. I'm not going to water it down or anything like that. And I'm just going to squirt a little bit on my cardboard. So I just want to go in the recessed areas, kind of darken them up just a little bit. All right, I brought in some more shadows with that bluish gray paint. And it's looking pretty good. I'm liking it. So you can see some contrast. I brought some of the shadowing down into these areas here. Did some shadowing in the eyes. I'm gonna do more paint around those eyes in like a purplish maroon kind of a color. But I need to address up here because I got a lot of excess paint around from the base of the horn. So I'm just gonna I'm just taking more of that bluish gray paint and I'm just gonna stipple right over. So it's going to create another contrast and also cover up some of my sloppiness. So it'll darken those areas where the horn is coming out. I'm just sort of dabbing around. To kind of break it up a little bit. It's a really nice effect, sort of stippling. So I just wanted to show you what the kind of dry brush stippling effect around the horns here. And I kind of carried it pretty much all the way into the middle between those horns. But that's the way it looks. Looks pretty good. Okay, I want to bring out these veins here that I put in with the cotton dipped in the paste. Because they look pretty cool as is, but I want them to stand out a little bit more. So I'm thinking a maroon. So it's just a maroon paint, and I have a little bit on a very fine, small paintbrush. I am going to knock some of that off too. And I'm just going to go in and see what that's going to look like. All right, I went over those veins with the maroon color. And now I'm taking flesh tint. And I'm going to, just like I did with the horns, I'm going to stipple dry brush right around just to break it up a little bit, make it look a little more believable. So on top of it a little and then right around it, just to mute it out. All right, well, that's what the veining on the side of the head looks like after I kind of muted it out a little bit. It's still pretty bold. Here's the other side. And I'm trying to get my lighting right for painting in this video, and I'm kind of struggling with it because it looks really, really bright with these lights, but I also need to be able to see what I'm doing, so hopefully this is a little bit better. And then, of course, the actual eyeballs themselves, I need to do some work on those, some painting, but I want to do around the eyes first. So I have a few different colors of paint. I have the maroon color that I used for the veining on the side of the head. And then I have just a purple color, a light purple, flesh tint, and then tapestry wine. So I'm not going to use or need a lot of this paint here. So on a piece of cardboard, I just put a little bit of each of the paint. And I'm using a variety of paintbrushes that I have on hand, some very small ones, fine ones, and then a bit larger. I'm going to go ahead and start with the darker. So I'm going to go in with the maroon. As it looks right now, it has the effect I'm going for, just kind of, I need to break up the color a little bit because it kind of looks like, you know, like a 9-year-old little girl got into her mom's makeup or something, and I don't really want that. So that was a combination of all of those different colors of paints. I just kind of layered them up on top of each other, and what came through, and what didn't kind of stayed on that surface area. Then I'm going to go back around with some of that bluish gray paint. So another paintbrush. Knock off a bunch of it. And I just want to kind of stipple around again. This paint, the rest of the paint is still wet. I'm able to pull some of that paint over. All right, did a lot of blending, some more shading. I like it. I brought in over onto the sides and kind of up in here. Blended a little bit with some more of the bluish gray paint. Brought it down just a little so that it kind of blends in. Did the same thing over here on the other side. So just kind of dry brushing some of that back in. The other thing that I want to do, these colors in here, I want to bring some of that up into this area where he has like a sort of a wound. So I'm going to go back in with that maroon color paint, and I just want to just put in a little bit of it in there. And this is the paintbrush that I've switched to is the one that had a little bit of that bluish gray paint on it, and I'm just kind of using that again just to kind of go over it and break up the color so that it's not so prominent. All right, that's looking better, I think. It's looking pretty good. I feel like I need to bring a little bit more of that bluish color, bluish gray color down into his nose area a little bit. Just a little. I don't want a whole lot, but I just don't feel like there's enough that's kind of standing out in there. So for the inside of the eyes, I'm going to see what Golden Sunset, that's the color that I'm using, and I'm just going to put it straight on there. So that's how it looks now. I have these little pre-made eyes. They're just little like cabochons that have a, you know, the printed backing, and they're glued on to the flat back of the glass. I did not make these, obviously. I bought them. I have a bunch of them. They're pretty cheap. And I couldn't decide if I wanted to go with the darker blue or this lighter kind of a cool color there, or red. These are not actually glued in. They're just kind of sitting on top right now, on top of the tackiness of the paint still. So I think I like these better with that coloration in there, and with the hair, the fur and the hair that I'm going to put on there and around those eyes. I think it's going to look pretty good. So I'm going to go with those. I'm not quite ready to actually permanently attach those yet, though. For the actual eyeball itself, I used that King's, Golden Sunset. And I just painted it straight over the white of the eyes there. And then it was a little too dark, so I muted it out by just going in while that yellowish paint was still wet and tacky. And I just went in with a little white acrylic paint right over that. More than likely, I'll go in and put in a little bit more paint details in the eyeball around the iris. But for now, I'm just going to leave that alone, and I think I'm going to go ahead and move on to the horns, see what those look like after I get those painted out, and then revisit everything. Well, I definitely will not be winning any Academy Awards for filmmaking, because in these next couple of clips here, I forgot to turn on my microphone. But as you see, I have some paint on a little piece of cardboard. This is the paints that I'm going to use to dry brush on to my horns. The first color is a raw umber, and the second color after that is a burnt sienna. The third color is going to be a raw sienna, and then lastly we'll brighten it up a little bit with Golden Sunset. And I'm not waiting in between the layers of the dry brush paint and the colors to dry. I just carry on. I brush them on, and then I move on with the colors. And came out pretty good. I was pretty impressed with the technique and the colorization in those horns. All right, so my microphone I know is working. My camera is working. So I think I'm back on track. But off camera, I did a little bit more work on the paint, as you could probably tell. But I did want to point out the work on the horns here. They came out really great with that dry brushing technique. So the only other thing that I actually did do as far as more paint on the horns, I went in with a dark umber in the raised areas. I did paint in a little bit, just to give them a little bit more of a contrast. But those horns are done. And then I also went in and with the flesh tint acrylic paint, I put in some of that, just kind of break up a little bit more of the paint in these areas here, the purple and that kind of coloration. So it broke that up pretty good, and I'm happy with that. I did a little bit more painting on the ears. I'm not completely content with the ears, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on, leave them as is for now. I also went in and I applied more paint, and that was the Tapestry Wine acrylic paint on that tongue. So that's repainted. And then on the teeth, I painted those with the raw umber a little bit, and I left the tops of the teeth where they're coming out of the mouth or the gums, the darker color. But with the rest of the teeth, I just took a cloth and I just wiped them off. So I really like the way that the teeth look. I think they look pretty cool. I think the mouth looks great. I did also, I permanently attached the or not the pupils, but I guess the retina. After with my paint and the tapestry wine color, I went in with a very fine paintbrush and I painted in some like veins inside the whites, or what would be the whites of the eyes. These are a yellowish color, but I painted in some of those veins in there, and then I permanently attached the eyepieces, which in the next step, and the final step, is the costuming. So I have a bunch of scrap fur here, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut up some pieces and start applying, and just let the camera roll.
You better light sage, not hang mistletoe. Bundle your herbs, let the candles glow. He's creeping through snow-covered pines tonight, with chains that jingle, eyes burning bright. The veil's still thin, the fire's still high. The goats are dancing under moonlit sky. Forget your carols, sing your charms, 'cause winter's beast is in your arms. Krampus is coming to town, hooves on the ground, bells all around. He's got a switch and he's calling you out, so better be good when the dark rolls down. Yule logs burn and spirits sing loud. Krampus is coming to town. No red suit, no candy canes.
He is done. I'm pretty proud of the way he turned out. I'm happy. I struggled a little bit, you know, with the laying on the fur, fake fur for the hair and some of the other little things, but overall, finishing it up with the costuming and the chain and the bells and these other little things that I put in there, and including the snow, probably took me about an hour and a half, and that's with me just kind of stopping, pausing, looking at it. So, but I ended up ditching the Mod Podge. It just wasn't working out, and I just kind of squirted in some hot glue here and there on the horns, on the face, the ears, some of the other areas here, and then just kind of sprinkling on that fake snow, and then I just kind of sprinkled it on up in his hair and around his costuming and his beard here. It looks pretty good. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy with it. Got a bunch of the snow on his ears. This is what the back of him looks like. So there's some snow in the back. And I hope, you know, I didn't really take a whole lot of time explaining a bunch of this stuff, but I think you get the gist of it. And there he is. Well, that concludes the tutorial on how to make a papier-mâché Krampus bust. I hope you enjoyed all the segments and got something out of it. I had a lot of fun creating this guy, and he turned out well. I'm really pleased with him. This is the last tutorial of 2025. I'm taking a break, and I won't be back until the new year. Till then, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I have many more tutorials coming up for you, but until then, I thank you for watching, and I will see you in 2026.